I read my Bible 16 times a day. I've never done, any of those major sins. I know every word by heart, and frankly, I give my 10%. So when we're talking about that goodness of the Holy Spirit, that's mine, right? Well, we're talking about goodness today, guys. So let's dive right in. Welcome back, everybody. My name is AP Raleigh, author of Abide, and I make Christian content to help both you and me grow in our Christian walk. If that's something that you love, please like and subscribe down below so you don't miss a thing. Now, when we're talking about goodness, we are jumping right on back to Galatians like we've been in for a little while here, Galatians 5:22 through 23. And we're looking at goodness in terms of the fruit of the Spirit. Now, this kind of seems like a really simple one on the surface. It's, in fact, simple enough that when you go down like a concordance of every different translation, they're all almost exclusively goodness. And usually there's some different ways they want to phrase it. Now, turns out that word's kind of just been a thing for a while, but what does it mean to have goodness? And I thought it was really unique to find out that this particular way of saying goodness, it's used 4 times in the whole Bible. And this is the real major one. And so I went in, and what makes this different? Because good is used all the time. That's in there. And there's a little caveat on the end. It seems small in English, but because it's not just good, it's goodness. And that little ness part changes it to an abstract noun. Now, if you're like me and you had to Google what that even means, because I did not do well in English, it means that this word is very hard to understand because it's abstract. It's not touchable, tangible, feelable, which means it's kind of hard to put a standard on it. It's very similar to love. How do you define whether or not someone has love, whether or not they're in love, what their level of love is? How is that defined? It's very abstract. I can't touch it. And in this case, too, anytime that we start bringing in this idea of goodness as these are the specific things I do to prove that I'm good, we start walking away from this definition and we get into piety and all kinds of other things. And this one is a particular caveat that the Pharisees were dealing with. This is something that Jesus constantly went against, was this idea that I can show you a list of my qualifications that prove that I am good. And what makes this even more entertaining is that it's coming from God. The word, even in the definition, when you're going back and trying to figure out the translations, I love it that it specifically talks about the fact that goodness is not really talking about tangible things. And by that I mean being kind to someone is a part of this. There's all kinds of parts of this that we can wrap in, but they're more of a way of life. They're more of a thing that's defined by us. They are intrinsic. And that's the big kicker is they're intrinsic. They're not something that we're really adding on, that we're making more of ourselves. I don't have to try to be good. I can ask God for some help on the topic, but God's the one that's providing that because it's in relation to God. And from everything I can find, all we're really doing in having this type of intrinsic goodness within ourselves is reflecting the character and nature of God. And what that doesn't look like is having this list of qualifications that I meet and you don't. And because that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. That's never been something that God's done with me, that he sat me down and gone, look how much better I am than you. Frankly, I knew by being around him that he was that much better than me. He didn't need to prove himself because it was so evident. But that wasn't the point either. That wasn't why he was being good, so that he could be proven better than me. He's being good because that's just a part of who he is. That's how he operates. That's what he does. And this comes out of a place of virtues. And those virtues are defined by God because they're intangible, and God being all knowing is actually capable of being the one that judges where you are on that scale. No other person is capable of doing that. I'm not capable of it. Heck, I can hardly do this. But you do start to notice the closer you get to God, the more these things just happen to creep into your life, and you start doing these things that you recognize as normal and the rest of the world is confused by. And those are the places where this kind of goodness, this goodness from the Holy Spirit, that's where this comes out, because they don't understand why you would do this for another person. They don't understand what would possess you to help someone like that. But nothing for yourself? Why? This is simply how I want to live my life and how what feels right to me. But that little point of right is something that God put in you. It's now intrinsic. It's a part of you. You don't need to justify it to yourself. You don't need to justify it to anyone else. No one else is going to understand. But that's now natural. And what a beautiful thing to have. Like when we're talking about this whole list, I love seeing all of it, but this particular item is in relation from you to another person. And yes, goodness does apply to yourself. There is a level there, don't get me wrong, but more than anything else, even, we can look at, oh no, love is just for other people. No, love is a 3-tiered piece between you and God, you and yourself, and you and others. But this one, this is how people know that you love God. This is how we're spreading the gospel, is by the goodness that is intrinsically ingrained in us from the Holy Spirit. How awesome is that? Like, I don't have to do anything to get it. I don't have to chant or recite things. I don't have to, go through all kinds of specific routines. All I got to do is just get to know God better. That's it. And I can ask him for help on it. These are things that even new Christians, it doesn't matter how mature you are in your faith, you're capable of understanding, comprehending, and reciprocating this point of goodness. It's not a laundry list of things you got to do. And that in itself is enough of a blessing to make me love this, to make this perhaps one of my favorite one of the entire thing, because there's nothing better, in my opinion, of feelings. People can say thank you for stuff. People can say, you're doing a great job. They can recognize work you do. Nothing is more life-changing to me. Nothing is more beautiful than when people come up and say, oh my gosh, why did you even, I can't believe you would do that. That was such a kind thing. And I'm sitting there trying to wrap my head around why they're saying that. Why are you complimenting me? I don't understand. This isn't a point where I'm going, oh yeah, I don't understand why would you think I would? No, it's legitimate literal confusion of, I thought that's what I was just supposed to do. It didn't cost me anything. It didn't hurt me at all. Or, maybe it did a little, but that doesn't, all I wanted to do was show them that they're loved. And it's like this inner childlike absolute love for other people that ends up inspiring, welling up this goodness, this intrinsic act of being good to others by way of virtue, by way of following God, by way of watching and reciprocating, that simply changes lives. Because I don't have to tell you I'm a Christian. And I don't have to tell you anything. I don't have to be good at the gospel. I have so many people that have asked me, because by the way, I used to be really bad at this. Like, I hope I'm better now, frankly. But I don't know. I just do my best to reciprocate what God gives me, and so we can all learn together. But I used to be really pretty bad at it, and I had some crazy theories, which thankfully are a bit better. But I've had so many people ask, how do I talk like you, or how do I help people like that, or how do I do it? And that's not to say I'm anything amazing. That's to say God's really amazing, because my ideas were so backwards. But the moment where I found that I changed people's lives the most, especially when I was first finding God, was simply applying the goodness that God gave me to other people. And let me give you the simplest example. I was angry, and God let me vent to him. And he listened, and he didn't try to fix me. He didn't try to solve the entire problem. He sat there and listened and accepted me, despite everything I wanted to throw out. So then I go and I find somebody who's angry and they're frustrated, and I can sit and listen with them and let them get it out. And all of a sudden they feel so loved and supported, and I am completely confused because all I did in that entire interaction was copycat. I'm literally just copying God. I didn't come up with anything new. I don't have a special strategy. All of my stuff is just trying to emulate that, and that's where this goodness ends up coming from that's so intangible. So, I know this is kind of cyclical and repetitive, but that's the best part of it. It's simple. So if you want more of that goodness, if you want to show people Christianity, if you want to grow the church, if you want to help the church, build it in any capacity whatsoever, I don't care if you're brand new in and you are just absolutely on fire, but you have zero knowledge whatsoever, and you're going, there's no way I can do anything because I don't preach like the guy up on the stage. I don't know what I'm doing. How do I bring people to Christ? I don't care if you're sitting in the pew and you've just been doing this day in and day out and it's your routine, but you kind of want to break out from that and get something different. By the way, that's what that whole book is on. Maybe you're going through some nastiness and you want to find the community. You want to find the community that's going to love you like God does. The fastest and easiest way to do all of these things is this goodness that the Holy Spirit has intrinsically given you. That means it is a part of you. You cannot separate yourself from it. So all you're doing is bringing it out. That's it. It's a natural ingrained instinct. So bring that out, and that looks just like I'm saying it again. It's just watching God and doing what he does. Not even what he asks. That's a part of it, yeah. But I can sit here all day and I can wait for God to tell me that I should love people, or I could just love people because he loved me, and all I'm doing is reciprocate. This isn't some sort of major event. This isn't some sort of crazy thing. This is literally just basic human kindness. And that stems directly from God. So, this week, give it a shot. If God hasn't done something for you in a long time, if that relationship is somehow broken, start there. Sit down and just have some time with God. Set some time aside to work that out, because I promise if that is an issue on the table, there's so much more stress and so much more worry and so much more frustration involved with that single thing than almost anything else in your life. So start with working that out. But, maybe things are just kind of bland and boring. Sit down and just ask God to do one thing for you that you can do for somebody else. Ask him to show you his goodness so that you can replicate it. That you can follow along as just like, when I was a little kid, my dad had mowed the lawn and we had this mower that had 2 tiers, and I just hang on to a little front and pretend like I was doing it too. Like, that is all we are doing. Like, he's going to do the heavy lifting. All we're doing is just being like him. And in doing so, everything around you in your world will change. I can guarantee it. Everything. So start there. Find one thing. And hey, if you have, please send me a message. You can shoot me an email. You can do anything you like. You comment down below. I want to know how it goes. This is a beautiful journey. We do it together. So I want to know. I hope this helps you. If it has, go ahead, check out my latest book, Abide, available on Amazon. If you haven't left a review, please do. And go ahead, like and subscribe down below so you don't miss a thing.